Aloha. All right. So the world. What's the line? Life ain't fair and the world is mean. Right? It's true. A lot of times we don't have just a nice, perfect delivery. We just went through all of our dystocia and you and dough related problems. Sometimes we have dystocia, but we don't always just have a nice, clean parody, right? Clean breech, and then lamb stands right up and gets their full dose of colostrum, right? And then lays down in a nice, warm, clean straw area and grows up to its full potential, right? A lot of times that doesn't happen, sadly. And so a lot of times we have, for some one reason or two or another or four, starving lambs, okay? Quick way to test. You'll probably be able to test from visual, right, check of just listlessness, inability to move around, right, and just sullenness, right? But when we start to get a little more acute, okay, there's a few other things that start happening. So, quick check, you can pull the skin out and twist it, right, in the back of it's between its shoulders, okay? And if it doesn't reform back to its normal state very quickly, right, then we have dehydration and potentially starvation, okay? Temperature is the main, is a big check here. If your lamb or kid has a cold mouth, then we're getting into problems. The other signs are bright sunken eyes, listless eyes, and can eventually develop a hunch, okay, from starving lambs. Okay, so you want to take its temperature to get a quick indicator of what your plan of action is going to be here, and you want to start off with making sure that everybody's nice and dry. Keep in mind, especially that in a lot of these contexts, when we're talking about lambs that are born, that we're going to be doing these kinds of things with, using heat boxes and the things with, then we are going to be in winter time. Okay, so try and keep that in mind. We won't have a big problem here in Hawaii, you know, making sure that they're warm, but it's still a good sign of knowing what's going on with the animal. If it is starving, right, it'll start to get cold, okay? So even here, still helpful. Take the temperature. And warming box, same thing. Depending on where we are here in your elevation, right, we get cool very quickly. So warming boxes are still relevant here and can be very helpful. So we want just past 37 degrees Celsius, about 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Now we want to check the temperature every 20 minutes to see that animal coming back up. So here's a nice picture of one. And here we just have the thermometer on top of the animal, where we can just open the box, check the thermometer, and not have to wait around with the lid open, okay? 102 degrees Fahrenheit is normal average body temperature in sheep and goats. So when you find a weak one, we're gonna have to do a couple things, and it's gonna depend on the temperature and whether it's gotten colostrum or not. That's gonna determine what we're gonna do before this thing falls asleep on. All right, so start with weak lambs. That can be all ages that are from 99 to 103 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so they're weak lambs that are not cold. Okay, so we want to feed them by, if we just notice a lamb that's weak but not cold, right? We want to get them some nutriment quick, and we're going to want to do that with a stomach tube. Okay, it's just to ensure that we can just straight deliver some nutrients and energy to the animal. A lot of times, if they're weak, right, they'll have a really bad nursing ability to nurse, and that's going to affect the amount of intake that it can have, which is going to prevent its coming back up, right? So we want to just give it a quick access to nutrient and energy. So if we're still weak after stomach tubing, put them in an aftercare unit. and continue. An aftercare unit is simply a isolated area, right, where you can have extra attention for the animal, okay, away from everybody else, and continue to feed by stomach tube until it's old enough to rejoin the mother. All of these, with our weak and sick lambs, right, our goal is always to return the lamb or kid to the doe, to the ewe or doe, okay. As we'll look into a little more here, we really don't want to have to be in the position of having to care for this animal all the way through, right, to weaning. Okay, that's going to cost a whole lot of money in milk replacer. Okay, so our end goal is we want them to get back onto a doe or ewe. And you can always put a heat lamp in the aftercare unit. As I mentioned, a lot of these contexts are happening in the winter time in temperate areas, so keeping a heat lamp in there is pretty feasible. Okay, if it's fine after the stomach tubing, put it back in with their mom, but then keep an eye on them and make sure they keep nursing, okay? If they became weak, probably a good chance it had something to do with nursing the doe or ewe. So keep an eye on it. If that problem persists, then whatever problem that may have been, then we'll have to go down a different road. All right, weak lambs with head up, that means they're semi-okay, more than 5 hours old and less than 99 degrees Fahrenheit. So essentially cold animals that still have their head up, okay? What are we gonna do there? We wanna feed them off the bat with a stomach tube and then get them in a warming box quick. It's important to get the animal energy before bringing their temperature up, okay? The body needs substrate to work on to develop that heat, okay? If the animal isn't feeding and then we raise up the body temperature, it's gonna use a lot more energy that it doesn't have, and it's gonna put that animal into a worse state. Always feed by stomach tube and then bring up to heat. Check the temperature every 20 minutes. Here's another warming box with a number of different compartments, okay, for different animals. And then leave the lamb in the warming box until it reaches 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Give it another feeding again after it comes up to temperature. And then if it's still weak after that, put it in an aftercare unit and keep feeding by tubes. The aftercare unit, right, is really the place it's going to be before getting back to the mom, right, to the doe or ewe. Another instance of an aftercare unit. This is more of a homemade unit, little heat lamp from a rafter, and this one's essentially made with some panels of wood and some hay bales. Okay. Remember, our last goal is to always get the animal back to the doe or ewe. Right? So once it revives with a stomach tube, put it back in with the mom, but then again, keep an eye on it and make sure everything's okay. So, cold animals with the head down, okay? Essentially, acute starvation, and it's also going to be pretty dehydrated, guaranteed by this. So, first thing I want to do is what we mentioned really briefly in issues and in injections was this is where we're going to use our glucose injection into the stomach cavity of the lamb. Okay, I just mentioned in order for the body to heat back up, it needs energy, right? That's why we start to get lower temps, okay? Because the body is super running out of energy. So the glucose shot just provides all the organs and tissues a quick dose of readily available energy, okay? So give it a dose of glucose into the stomach cavity and then put it in a warming box immediately, right? Take it out of the warming box and then stomach tube it once we get to 99 degrees Fahrenheit. and then you can see how it is from there, and then go into another round of the aftercare unit for more rounds of feeding via the stomach tube, or put it back with the doe or you. Okay, with the again, head up, less than 5 hours old, less than 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Get it into a warming box, stomach tube it, and then go from there. Okay, pretty much the same as more than 5 hours old. So here's a nice little diagram of what a lot of these different routes are doing. Okay, we always start the lamb being sluggish, not nursing, and generally feeling cold. Right, that doesn't necessarily have to be there. Right. Always going to want to take temperature, but then we're always coming back to returning the lamb or the kid to the doe. Okay, and so these are just our different combinations of the routes we're going to take. So essentially, we're going to be stomach tubing it always, right? At some point, right? Because we need to kind of force some energy in there. The question is just are we going to need to administer glucose? Are we going to need to warm, right? Okay, so our glucose therapy, right? That's going to be happening when they're too weak to nurse, and if they're exceptionally young and exceptionally or acutely excuse me, sorry, this thing keeps falling asleep. Or acutely starving, right? We need to get a quick boost. So use 4 cc's of a 25% glucose solution per pound of lamb, and a lot of times it's available in dextrose. So then you can use, you can water down a 50% dextrose solution and achieve the same result. Okay. Injected into the body cavity to supply energy. When the animals are over 5 hours old and can't hold up their heads, right? When their heads are down and not barely being able to stand by this point, okay? So you want that to be administered warm. You're gonna hold up the lamb right here, so to show the body cavity well, right? And then we're gonna use a 1-inch 20 gauge needle, 20 or smaller needles, right? For our smaller animals, tiny little lamb, we don't wanna be using a big old heavy gauge needle. Up and just to the side of the navel, right in the body cavity, right as soon as you feel a lack of pressure and getting through that first layer, right? Don't want to go too deep here. And using a tincture of iodine at the injection site to cover up the injection site wound. So that's when the lamb can't swallow, right? Again, we mentioned when the head is down, but essentially when the head is down, right, that's just the point at which the animal is not going to be physically able to be mobile or to swallow, right? Hence the injection. And after the injection, right, we warm them right up, take them out, see if they can get fed by the feeding tube, and then move right along, okay? So when they're able to swallow, that's when we're going to go with the feeding tube, okay? And so be sure that it can swallow. If not, you're going to have a risk of choking the animal, right? And pushing that too far. But so we're going to go all the way down the esophagus with a stomach tube, and then where do we have it here? Notice that, right? We have the stomach tube in and has still some coming out of the mouth that we can then attach our feed onto, right? Our colostrum or our milk replacement, etc., and be able to just administer right as much as we want, getting full delivery, right, and not worrying about whether the animal can feed well or not. We're just delivering straight there. So if you accidentally get it down the wrong tube, right? Don't get it down the esophagus and get it down the windpipe, then the animal isn't going to sit there, and you're going to know pretty quick. It's going to resist highly. So Let's see. With our orphans, here, maybe we'll call that a video, and then we'll keep going.